give it a second to jump on. We're officially live, I believe, live on the Literally Facebook page, and then the BBB group and the Banyan Collective YouTube page. So that's good. We'll get it.
We're live.
We're live. Okay, so we have. I'm going to pull up comments just so we have these ready to go, and we'll give it a second. Let somebody jump on. All the somebodies. Get your drinks in order. Case, you about ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You ready?
I got the outline here too, so.
Oh, good. Oh,
I did my homework.
Check my sources.
Yeah, I got my outline right here. You know, Sean didn't do this for nothing.
Thanks, I know. Guys. All right, let's get rolling. I'm R. Brandon Long of the Banyan Collective Arts and Adventure Podcasting since 2010, and I'm your producer for this evening's live stream extravaganza. This is Bourbon, Beer, and Books. It's a spinoff of the Literally podcast featuring Case Johnston. Case, your most recent Literally podcast featured a very good-looking man and an even better writer, Bradford Filan. How'd that go?
It was great. Bradford was joining us from the South Pacific, where he teaches high school. And yeah, very good-looking man, movie star. For a while, I couldn't believe that, we were actually talking. I thought that he might have a film crew with him. That's very attractive. If he's listening, I'm sure he's blushing because he was also a really good writer and extremely kind.
Case, you act like you don't have other friends who are movie star good looking.
I do, but I'm just
be used to it by now, man.
Yeah.
There we go, right there. What do you think? Yeah, let's go ahead and pull this up. There's Mr. Bradford.
Yep. Yeah, so listen on the Banyan Collective / Literally to find all the Literally podcasts, as well as our Bourbon, Beer, and Books podcast.
Yeah, very good. All righty. Moving right along here. There's my notes. Yeah. This is when you're working with two screens and getting everything together here. Where'd my
producing
mouse go? Yeah, I can't find my own mouse half the time is what the problem is here. Which is pretty good. All right, so Case, you picked the book here for Bourbon, Beer, and Books. So first of all, tell us a little about what are we doing tonight? What are we dissecting? And then tell us about the book, A Rendezvous with Rama. Give us a short synopsis, maybe a POV it's written in. Anything else that might stand out to you?
Sure. So I picked Rendezvous with Rama because we had about 2 weeks before the cast and we needed one. And I was up camping with my brother last weekend, and we were chatting about the Rama series because we had both read it about 20 years ago. And I remembered really enjoying it. And I really liked 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I read before Rendezvous with Rama. And he said, well, yeah, but Rendezvous with Rama was really boring. But Rama 2 was amazing. And I realized after that I was thinking about Rama 2 when I picked the book, but we didn't have any bites on doing Rama 2 for the next book. But but you have to get through Rama 1 to get to Rama 2. But yeah, I liked it. I read it 20 years ago, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it this time too. I personally, just from a larger standpoint, or but summarily for this book, it's basically like if you think about the object that flew in near the Earth for Star Trek 4, the one with the whales. Everybody knows the one with the whales. So it's basically that object. They ripped. I mean that story came. That cylindrical ship basically came directly from Rama. Or I don't know if Rama was taken from something else, but if you think about that ship from Star Trek 4, that's the ship that came close to the Earth for Rama as well. And they sent the different planetary kind of coalition sends up some astronauts to jump in and check it out. And that's the crux of the book. It really, really is.
Wasn't there a recent comet that was cylindrical like that as well that just came by? Like the doomsday comet or something. You guys remember that? Maybe that was Rama.
It was. I think it was Rama. We just weren't prepared. Not enough people read the book. But no, I overall I liked it. And I liked it because, like my wife says, she makes fun of me because when she's not around, I watch really slow, dull movies. I like the slow science of it all, where there's every moment. There are no gaps in scientific theory, at least. And I was actually reading something the other day about it really quickly. And I'm going off a little bit, but that Arthur C. Clarke was able to predict this kind of machines that would be part biological and part mechanical, years and years before that could ever be a possibility, because that's the only way that a machine.
No, man, don't give him too much credit. He also predicted space chimps running the ship and cooking food for everybody, and that didn't happen.
Wait. We haven't even introduced ourselves.
Yeah, no, we're about there. We're about there.
You've written this huge outline. Let's do the thing.
All right.
Do this thing, Lee. Lead us off. And Lee, while you're doing that case, you're jumping around on your internet. I don't know if you can get a better connection there, or if you have any better options. But while they're introducing themselves, that's if you can get a better internet connection.
Okay, let me try it. I'll try it on my computer while you guys are talking.
Sounds good.
And I'm having the local Uena summer ale because it's summer.
Nice.
Summer. Nice.
It is summer.
So I'm Lee Camacho Rooks. I'm coming at you from Central Florida, this little town called Claremont. That's hilly, and a bunch of old people live here, and it's kind of awesome. And I ordered beer for the podcast today from Cigar City Brewing, and it's called Florida Man. And there was a glitch, and I won't get it till tomorrow. So I'm having an Aperol Spritzer, and that's who I am, and that's what I'm drinking.
Perfect. Sean.
All right, I'm Sean Davis, and I'm way up here in McKenzie Bridge, Oregon. It's in the middle of the state, up in the mountains, Three Sisters. If you ever have a chance to come visit, please do look me up. Just go to the general store and say, hey, can I get Sean's phone number and give it to you? Pretty rural up here. I am drinking this bourbon. Legend. It's a hybrid bourbon between like a Kentucky distiller and a Japanese mixologist, or he's a blender, and it has a kick to it. I'll tell you, it's I've had some smooth bourbons, and this is not a smooth bourbon, but it's still really good, and I like it.
Proof?
And then what?
The proof?
Oh, yeah, it's 40% alcohol, 94 proof.
Oh.
But yeah, it's got a kick to it. And then the beer I'm drinking is Ale Song. It's a brewery in Eugene, Oregon, and this is their Senior Rhino. These are like really good beers. This Senior Rhino, my buddy Tim Hooten is the guy who introduced me to these guys, and they're just amazing. This is their Imperial Stout. It's aged in bourbon and tequila barrels with cinnamon, cocoa, vanilla, and ancho chile. And as far as Rama goes, I did not enjoy. I mean, I always.
We aren't to the 5-word.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You're off script. So let me.
I'm the only one who read the script, man.
All right. So I debuted this on our mid-month whatever check-in live, but Lee, you haven't seen this case. I don't think you've seen this yet either. But this is the whiskey.
Oh yeah, I've been wanting to try it. Is it? See, I'm worried it's terrible because it's novelty. Is it good?
No, it's decent. I mean, I wouldn't. It's fine.
It's made in Ireland.
It's fine. It's an Irish whiskey. So,
I love Irish whiskey, so
yeah.
Maybe I'd like it.
Yeah, and then the chaser, of course, is the standby here, the Sierra Nevada Pale. So there we go. We're there. Case, I don't know if he's coming along or what's this. Oh, I think we lost him. He just turned us off and he's switching maybe. Let's try this. There we go.
Hey,
there you go. Is that a better connection?
Hey, how do you like this angle?
Yeah,
There you go. That's
yeah,
better.
Yeah, I like that. All right.
Is that
what are you
better?
drinking? Or are you drinking? Because you hurt your back and maybe you're drinking a lot.
Oh man, I'm having a beer, but yeah, I wrecked my back today. And I went to a therapist and she like massaged my guts, and I have yet to recover. She beat me up bad. Like literally she was in my guts, like in the front underneath.
Underneath
What an image. What an image to pause
That's all we get
on.
right there.
Underneath what? We got to know.
Under. Just getting really in there.
Oh, yeah, that was good. You froze. You froze in the wrong spot, Case.
It was fantastic.
Oh, that was great.
Like this. That's awesome.
Okay, let's jump into, is it the 5-word review? 5-word review.
That's
Who
what
wants to
Sean
lead?
asked us to do.
Yeah.
I'll start.
Yeah. All right, Lee, let's
Okay.
see.
So I'm cheating, and it's a 6-word and an apostrophe word review. So way better than I thought. Pretty funny. That's my 6-word review. Way better than
We
I
better.
thought.
You can get away with that
Pretty
from Florida. That's how they talk.
That's how I talk.
Sean, what's your 5-word review?
Oh no, I had to go with like Lee. I have 6 words: space Jesus, anti-gravity boobs, sans aliens.
Wow.
Yeah, so you would think that would make somebody want to read the book, because I'm telling you, man, like he introduces space Jesus. I think that was great. I mean, he throws in all of these little trivial things that could be its own book, but he just blows right by it. Like the Endeavor is flown by a bunch of like hybrid space chimps.
See, you know what though? I like that. I think that his world building is really sharp. I think that it's quick, and I get a big picture of a much bigger world than we've got a chance. I'm going to argue about that with you this whole podcast. I actually liked that.
Sorry, Case, I cut you off. What was your 5-word review?
Oh, I thought it was Rama too.
Hey, you said that twice, though, but Rama 2 didn't win every single award you can win if you write a science fiction book. I mean, this won the Hugo, the Nebula, like everything, international awards. Why do you think this one won all those awards? And by the way, Rama 2 wasn't written by Clark. That was written by someone else, right? And he wrote all of them after Rama. And Clark just said, all right, yeah, go for it.
Yeah,
Is that
they
true?
co-authored that one. Yeah. Gentry Lee is he's a big science fiction writer, and he co-authored it. But I'm with Lee. I like the world building, and maybe it's this, and to me it's an unraveling of a world, and maybe it's because of the way that what I write as a writer is that I could never do that. I could not unravel a full spaceship with its own ecosystem and monkeys flying the ships and different worlds.
Obviously,
I think maybe that's where I enjoy it.
I mean, Space Jesus is just like a reconception, an evolution of some Mormon ideas, right? That's what's going on there, right? Yeah.
It was like the 5th Church of Christ, but it happened. They believed he skipped through it. I mean, he could have really explained it a lot more. It would have been interesting.
I don't know. See, what I like about it is he tells us about it. And he's like, then we've got this funny line. I might have just invited him because I was curious. Like I wanted to see what was going to happen, which I thought was a really funny. I thought the book was very funny, actually. But then later on, it comes back, which is what I like in world building. You get a little bit here and a little bit there, and the guy's like, "Oh wait, I have this figured out. The spaceship's for me."
Yeah,
it's such a weird.
It was the arc, and it was saying here for me.
It's for me. It was such a weird moment that I liked that. I don't know. I think one reason it was easier, you prepped me to kind of not like it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I
And
start
so-
reading like the day after, and I can't.
But I wonder if that actually helped me like it, not because I was going against you, but because I was pleasantly surprised
Mhm.
repeatedly. Also, in the audiobook, it starts with this little intro, and the guy's like, yeah, he wasn't really interested in character building. I was like, oh, okay. If I know that going in, that's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah, we should really talk about that. I mean, in case this guy was known for not caring about developing characters, right?
Yeah.
But when we say
And
these characters aren't
2001
developed,
so much that way.
Say it again. Well, I fit, for me, his human characters were an afterthought, and he was a very big concept guy, and I understand that, and I like that too, And I think that, I had said this before. I think one of the reasons why I didn't enjoy it as much is because I had read so much of the people who had stood on his shoulders to get so, high up in science fiction that I've seen it like what it was. I've seen what they improved upon and read that. And so I didn't know about this book at all until you told me, and then I read it, and it was supposed to be huge. And maybe I had the opposite effect what Lee was talking about, where I thought it was going to be amazing.
Mhm.
So all these people were influenced by Clark, and it was just kind of like, where's the characters? What's going on?
it's funny. I grew up, so I looked it up because I was really curious. Stranger in a Strange Land, Heinleins, comes out in 61. So more than a decade before Rendezvous with Rana, right? And I was a big Heinlein freak when I was, in my teens.
You should be amazing.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of his stuff didn't feel super new to me. Didn't feel very groundbreaking to me, right? Like, Planet of the Apes, the novel for Planet of the Apes starts with a solar ship. So you've got that technology established in the early 60s, right? And the whole ape interest. You've got the trope of, sexual freedom and polygamy, all in Heinlein, which is early 60s. So I think that was the most disappointing thing for me is I'd sort of heard this is the foundation of science fiction. I'm like, well, I didn't see anything that was foundational about it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was kind of clever and interesting, but I didn't really see it as foundational. Which I know someone's going to blow me up about. I know I'm going to just catch a lot of hell for that. Huh?
Heinlein or Planet of the Apes?
Well, but I was comparing it to both of those, which come out in the early 60s.
Right. I enjoy Heinlein, but I think he has more character development. I've always loved character stories,
Yeah.
And so I think that was where my lacking is in my understanding how great this novel is like I wanted one guy you can root for and I want to ask you guys this question. If the Endeavor hadn't been out there and they have never went on to Rama, would anything in that universe have changed? I mean,
well, that's the thing that was disappointing for me was the end. I mean, not the last line. I liked the last line, but like the end in general.
The Ramans do everything in 3.
Yeah, that I like that line, but the ending in general, where there ultimately is no real danger. There ultimately is nothing other than, oh, that was interesting. Mm-hmm. Look, here are these animal machines. Yep. That was disappointing. The ending was like, to me, the last arc. We get Jimmy. Jimmy gets the flower. I think the flower is going to do something terrible.
The flower didn't do anything.
It didn't do anything. There's I'm prepared. I'm a little nervous through the whole thing. And at the end, there's none. That was my disappointment.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess we haven't really even gone over the plot of the book. And I'm really interested to hear your guys' version of this plot. Tell me what this story was about.
Yeah, Case, this is your book, so why don't you start that off?
Oh, just it's pretty simple premise. a spaceship comes into the galaxy. It's going super fast, and we're able to board it with the Endeavor, with a nearby ship and astronauts, and they go explore it. Basically saying yes, answering the question for everybody: is there life outside of our galaxy? I think that's the biggest takeaway from it, is that they are saying absolutely there is, because it's a generational ship that they figure out through many different things as the ship starts to heat up, as it starts to get close to the sun, that they figure out that it has to be generational, and that it warms itself every time it gets to a new sun. It comes alive again, and then it's probably been doing this for tens of thousands of years. But the bulk of the story relies on the astronauts just exploring this new world, this large cylindrical world, and that's about it. That's basically the plot.
Yeah. But, I would ask also, and I want to hear Lee's version of the plot as well, but like we always ask our students when they're teaching, when you're writing, you have to always ask yourself what's at stake. What was at stake in this story?
Our aloneness in the universe. Because it starts with them not even thinking it's worth looking at, right? We've got this old fuddy-duddy. Another really funny line in the book is something to the effect of all these years of study and evolution, and we still haven't figured out how to get old conservatives off scientific panels.
I got it right here. Even by the 22nd century, no way had yet been discovered of keeping elderly and conservative scientists from occupying crucial administrative positions. Indeed, it was doubted if the problem ever would be solved. You're right. That was pretty good.
It's a really funny line, especially if you work in academia, right? So that's what's at stake, right? They're like, that's not even worth looking at. The old guy's like, it'd be a waste of money. And the only reason they go to look at it is to spite him about something else he says. So he says something about the Big Bang Theory, and there's some other scientists there who are like fans of another theory. And so they vote against him, not because they're interested in Rama, not because they think it's a good use of money, not because they think it's anything interesting or worthwhile, but to spite him about this other theoretical argument they've been having for years. So I think ultimately what's at stake is a fundamental understanding of humans' curiosity or non-curiosity. Like everything in it is about wanting to go another step. So it's sort of like that. I think that's it. I think it's a low stake, but it's a stake of humanity as opposed to any single person.
I guess. All right. I mean, I'll give it to you. I don't know. What do you think, Case?
I think Lee. I think I can't expand on anything that Lee said. I agree with her in what's at stake and why and what's the purpose. And yeah, I think she summarized what I thought what the purpose of it was.
There seems to be a lot of social commentary about the sciences in it, and the kinds of people who fly ships versus the kinds of people who theorize versus the kinds of people who man things versus it's really, there may not be. See, for me, I thought the characters were kind of interesting. There are these different personalities that we see in exploration and in science, right? If you look at historically, our first astronauts are like cowboys, and that's kind of what they talk about. Oh, well, it's a good thing we're not just getting one of those cowboys. But then our captain, whose name I don't know, which
Norton.
goes back to, what's his name?
Commander Norton.
Yeah, Norton is a little kind of pirate cowboy wannabe. Right. So we've got that. Then we've got the stodgy old guys at home. Then we've got the kind of crisp, medical and scientific younger, and they're women, which is interesting, who kind of know what's going on. And then we've got Jimmy, who's just like he's a guy who wants to have fun and he's athletic, and so he's working. He's not
Somehow
really studying.
he's stowed away his flying motorcycle.
Yeah.
Pocket bike.
His flying bike.
I don't think it's motorized.
It's like a sail or something.
Yeah, it's like it had had wings or something
But
like
it
that.
Wings like a dragonfly.
But I have that quote I want to read to see what you guys think. Oh, I thought we should talk about this. Some women, Commander Norton had decided long ago, should not be allowed to aboard ship. Weightlessness did things to their breasts that were too damn distracting. It was bad enough when they were motionless, but when they started to move and sympathetic vibration set in, it was more than any warm-blooded male should be asked to take.
Keep going.
No, that's all I got.
Well, no, there's more to the quote.
He was quite sure that at least one serious space accident had been caused by acute crew distraction after the transit of a well-upholstered lady officer through
it's unholstered.
unholstered.
It's a well-unholstered lady officer.
I made that typo twice.
Yeah, it's an unholstered lady officer. So
that's a lot better than upholstered.
It is. It's a lot better than upholstered. It's a very different statement. Okay, so when you shared this, I was a little furious, and anybody who checks our message boards on Facebook will see that I kind of went off. But then when I read it in context, it didn't bother me at all, because it's not the narrator. The narrator has a voice and he's kind of snarky, and it's not him that's saying it. And right after it, he deals with this woman who makes the decisions on who gets to go on the trip, right? And she's making good decisions. And so I think that is more of it's supposed to be a funny quip by a roguish, cowboyish, pirate-ish kind of captain. I think so it didn't bother me as much in context, because I think it's kind of weighted.
He takes some context. I just, everything about Heinlein and I don't know if you guys, I was going to pick one of these days, The Moon is a Harsh Mistress, and that has a lot to do with labor laws on the moon and stuff. And you're talking about how they put social commentary inside this. This didn't seem to do that. I mean, it kind of reinforced the old stiff upper lip kind of British gentleman type of thinking. I don't know, the old white guy stuff, but it works, I guess. You guys loved it. It won so many awards, so I'm not going
to say I loved it.
Die on any of the hills here.
I'm not going to say I loved it. I liked it way better than I thought. Now I'm going to say this: I've never read 2001. But I think, the movie was real popular with my folks, so I've seen it a bunch of times, and I think it's dreadfully boring. So I've never been interested in reading any Clark. So again, I think that it's easy for me to be charitable, because I was expecting to hate every second of this. I think in terms of social commentary, it's not dealing with big issues. It's not like Dune, which is one of the best social commentary sci-fi novels, I think, around. It's not like Heinlein, who's so interested in sex commentary that there's almost nothing else there. It's its own, but I think it's more like it's a microcosm kind of commentary. Here we are way in the future, and we're going to be just the same as we are now. We'll have all of these, we'll have chimps, but ultimately they're just, slave labor. We'll have new religions, but they're basically the same as the old ones. The people running things aren't going to change, because medicine is going to elongate their lives, and they're just going to have the same conversations over and over again. I don't think it's breaking any crazy ground with social commentary, but I do think it's basically holding up a mirror. Whether that's valuable or not is a whole different discussion.
It might be holding up a mirror, but it really takes a lot to try to look into it and see what he's. I don't know. Maybe he's not trying to say anything. Maybe just holding the mirror up. But it was interesting. They had people on Mercury, people on the moon, Venus, and they're in different moons on the Jovian giants, and they are all different. Politically different, which I thought that was pretty good. I mean, I see that in the Expanse series, and and that is, I love that. I mean, it's like I said,
the Expanse feels like a better version of this.
Yeah, well, yeah, great characters, and then again,
and scarier.
There's life and death here. I mean, no one dies in this. I think maybe we're conditioned because I was just watching Prometheus again, and I'm thinking like when the kid picks the flower, like that's gonna get him somehow. Just nope, he just puts it in his pocket and we don't talk about it again. Just waiting for the other shoe to drop or the first.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really good description of this book. You spend the whole time ramping yourself up, waiting for the other shoe to drop, and ultimately it doesn't.
I don't know, Case. You got to defend it, man. I want to hear what you have to say.
Oh no, I mean, I like it again just because I like that very slow, methodical move through a new world. Where the light comes on, and we see this new world that I think Clark did an amazing job of scientifically explaining it. His scientific theories about how may not hold up, but at least I like how thorough they are in their attempt. And I think that's brilliant. And so I think that's what attracted to me the first time around, and the second time around was Clark. Maybe he doesn't develop characters, but he develops every step along the way as to how something like this could be plausible. And I think that scientific plausibility that he gives us, that's what intrigues me throughout the whole book. That how does this ship work? He asked the larger question, how does this ship work and who put it together and why? And I think it's those are three large exploratory questions for humanity. I mean,
I don't think he answered any of those questions. I don't think he answered one of them.
I don't think he answered them either, but I do think that he explored through science, the possibility of it, and he leaves it to us to try to answer these questions of, well, I'm going to give you this plot, I'm going to give you this outline, and I'm not going to tell you the answer. And I think it's like what Lee says. It's maybe that's the mirror he wanted us. That's the image he wanted us to see in the mirror, is that we don't know either. I don't know. That's what I love. I love the unfolding of the science. I think I like the methodical plausibility of his theories on the page. I think it's, it's not something I could never do. And maybe that's where my admiration comes.
I felt the same way after watching Prometheus. Like, there's a bunch of questions that no one answered, and I don't know what's going on.
So you liked that movie? Because that movie infuriates me how much I hate it.
The cinematography is amazing. And just watching the new worlds, I like watching it until it turns into a zombie movie, then I'll turn it off.
Yeah.
But we're talking about what Case was talking about as far as like explaining the science. I just read Andy Ware's new book, Project Hail Mary, and he goes so deep into the science. Mm-hmm. I loved it too. But he also has, like characters, and he has like, oh man, I don't want to give any spoilers, but the characters in that book, the two characters and the main characters of that book are just amazing. And one of them takes a lot of creativity to figure out why or how they would talk and stuff. So I mean, it's really good.
So I'm going to say that I actually liked the characters in this. Do I think that they're like transcendently deep or interesting? No, but I liked hanging out with them. Like, I like Jimmy.
Yeah, he was cool.
I like the doctor, who is also just
they hooked up at the end, right? I mean, that's what I got out of it. They hooked up again, even though Commander Norton has two wives. Mm-hmm. Again, space polygamy skips right over it, but Commander Norton has 2 wives, and then he still hooks up with the medical doctor at the end in the last chapter. Or did I read into that? I thought they did. They're floating around naked.
I think probably. But like there's this moment with her when she's trucking along, right? Like she's walking faster than the rest of them. And the narrator's like, as if to support her, what is it? Something like her requirements of everyone else. Like she feels like she has to prove something because she's required so much of everyone else. Like I thought that was I think that it's doled out nicely in these little tiny phrases and tiny moments that I felt like I knew these people. They felt real to me.
Well, and I mean, I could even go back to the 2001 discussion. See, I love the movie and I love the book on that. What was that? There was a movie recently that came out, and I can't think of it, where it's just almost silent the entire movie. It's a space movie. And, you know, those are the ones that, like, my wife won't watch with me because she says I like long, slow, boring movies. And I do. I don't know why, especially space movies, where I feel like space is so quiet that, you know, the book kind of embraced that almost silence throughout this kind of exploratory move through the universe. And I think 2001 and 2010 both do that. But those are nonfiction, so that's different because that year's already come and gone. They're not.
I think ultimately, this is not a book that I will probably reread, right? But I'm not mad at it. I'm really not. And I think ultimately, this book is a taste book. Like, if you look at us, it's like Case is here, and I'm here, and Sean is here, and I think that's okay for a book, right? It's a book that either it fits your taste or it doesn't, right? And I think it's interesting that we all sort of read it in slightly different ways. I think there's something to be said for that. I just like, am I the only one who like laughed a bunch during this book?
Yeah. Well,
I am.
Maybe I just didn't know how to read it right.
Did you read it or audible it?
I did both.
Yeah. I
did the audible.
Yeah. That narrator for me was really dull.
You have to speed him up. He sounded like a normal narrator at like 1.3, 1.5. And then he was like, by that, like if you do it at that speed, everybody's got their own accent and their own pitch, and he sounds much more normal. I don't know what's going on. I couldn't handle it at speed 1. It was excruciating, so I had to speed it up.
But I made the mistake of looking into Arthur C. Clarke's life.
Yeah.
We should have learned our lesson from Hemingway. The guy moved to Sri Lanka and a lot of people say it was because of the sex trade. And but, you know, he followed his love of scuba diving. And this guy discovered ancient ruins as a scuba diver. I mean, people called him the prophet of the Atom Age, I believe. So I had it written down here. I mean, there's no denying that he had some the prophet of the space age. He had some amazing accomplishments, but I mean, you know, how much do we dig into his personal life?
I think that's really reflective of this book, though, right? Because obviously that's an interest in just seeing and knowing, or trying to know what is unknowable. And archaeology comes up in the book repeatedly. He coins this phrase, future history, that we see today being used. I don't know that he coined it. I'm lying. I should look that up. But it seems like he might have coined it. This idea of an archaeological future. I mean, maybe that's really the question. I think that knowing that about his life is not even a little, that's the diving stuff is not even a little surprising, because I think that's what the whole book is him just doing that in his writing.
I would argue that the commander and that crew were archaeologists, because they get there ready to talk to some alien species and there's nobody there but the robot custodians. I mean, but I was waiting for the payoff and I didn't get the payoff, and that's why I just didn't like the book.
Yeah.
I wanted a couple of the crew members to die because what they're doing is very dangerous. And I'm of the school of, the Vonnegut school of writing, where you just torture your main character, but you have to make people care about him in some way, root for him. And I didn't get that from this book.
You didn't root for Jimmy?
Jimmy, no. I mean, what do we know about Jimmy? He stowed away his book, and he was young, and I didn't know.
That's all I would know about him if I met him, and I'd root for him.
Yeah, but when you're writing like that, you guys there's a great screenplay book called Save the Cat, and the premise is like the first thing you do with your main character is you make him, even if he's a hard-boiled detective, let him save a cat, and then people root for him because he has enough humanity to try to help something.
Right, but that's what Jimmy does. Jimmy risks his career to bring this thing on the flight because he wants to be in the Olympics. I think that's a saving the cat moment. I think that's pretty freaking cool. I like Jimmy.
He did take the time to pick a flower.
He picked a flower, I
wish that flower would have turned into an alien and ate his face.
He was so excited about getting to use his dragonfly, and then it dies. It gets destroyed.
You know what I'm gonna do, Lee? I'm gonna like they did Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, and they did Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna rewrite this book how I want it to go. I'm sure everybody will be cool with it.
You have to say it again, Sean. You blanked out.
Oh,
or I blanked out.
No, I'm sorry. So what I want to do with this book, like Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, is rewrite this book how I want it to go. And I'm going to have that flower eat Jimmy's face. And
but I mean, isn't that just The Expanse?
Yeah, it totally is.
Like if I were going to rewrite this book the way I wanted it to go, I would just write The Expanse.
I'm going to work in there when I write the screenplay for the movie, and the Ramans show up and they're like, "Take me to your leader," and then commander is gonna turn around. It's like, "No, you take me to the top ramen."
Man,
that'll be on the trailer.
You've been setting that up for hours.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that. Just dying to get that in there.
All
right, so go ahead, Shoop.
Oh no. Are you still gonna talk? Are you gonna talk about Rama more?
No.
Well,
I didn't watch it.
I want to know who's down for Rama 2, though.
Rama 2 is really good.
This time is personal.
Yeah, well, they get on. I'll tell you, Rama 2, they get on and they don't think that it's going to go anywhere, and then it takes off on them. So there's a lot more at stake, and I think maybe Gentry Lee brings that to the next book, because there are two characters who start off as, just astronauts, but they become lovers and then they get married.
Wait, there's one with the distracted women parts on there.
Yeah. So it becomes like a whole love story in space. So my thought was this: I think it's really interesting. There's a reason why, and it goes back to the Star Trek we started in the beginning. And Sean had mentioned this in the text thread. The difference between a Heinlein or a Arthur C. Clarke or those who are writing Star Wars and Star Trek, we're obviously like the Star Wars, Star Trek do not follow the same scientific what word am I looking for?
Rigor.
What's that? Rigor. Yeah, rigor. And or rules. And that doesn't bother anybody, right? It doesn't. The stories are so good. So I mean,
no. Case, I would argue that it is starting to bother people. You see The Expanse. I mean, time dilation is a real thing. You don't do warp speed and come back from like the other side of the galaxy and still be the same age as everyone, because relativity is a thing.
But this is just the difference between hard sci-fi and soft sci-fi. I mean, that's a different discussion, right? Like some people like hard sci-fi, some people like soft sci-fi. I mean, there's all these categories of sci-fi that we could get into. Like, you know, a lot of people will say Star Wars is not sci-fi, that it's space fantasy.
Fantasy, yeah. No, sorry, Case, I'm gonna cut you off, man.
No, that's the question that's the question I was asking both of you, is like, why might there be a whole audience for this, or not, and why there's such a large or another large audience for the soft sci-fi, and is it strictly story based that kind of separates the two, someone who might really like hard sci-fi compared to those who like soft sci-fi, and is it all based on story, or is there, can you think of a great book or a great movie that kind of combines them both so well together?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of hard sci-fi with great stories, and there's plenty of soft sci-fi with not very good stories. You know, if you look at like
Babylon 5, Farscape, all those series were good.
Yeah. You look, well, you know, but Farscape's really interesting because Farscape is sort of, there's actually some really good science in Farscape, even though it's like,
I love it. The bioengineered ships that like give birth to another ship.
Yeah, it's a great, to our audience, if you've never watched Farscape, it's like one of the best TV sci-fi series I think ever made. I'm going to go on that limb. I'm really comfortable saying that. And it was done by the Jim Henson Company. Did all of the sort of alien stuff. Yeah. It's fantastic. And then you've got things like The Martian. That's a really good example of very good hard sci-fi with a great story. I mean, that's very hard sci-fi with a great story.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about The Expanse. I can't. I mean, I read all of the.
The Expanse is hard sci-fi.
I haven't read the novellas between the books, but the big books I've read, they're really great, really good. And the series, really happy that they actually made the series out of it. The books are amazing.
I haven't read the books. The series is phenomenal.
What other books sci-fi you guys like?
So I like funny sci-fi. Altered Carbon was so good. It was so fun.
I like the literary references in it.
Yeah.
You know, that's great. Edgar Allan Poe.
It's a lot of fun. Love, Death, and Robots. If you haven't watched Love, Death, and Robots.
I haven't.
My God. It's fantastic. It's an anthology series. Each episode is really short, and it's done in a different style with different authors, different animation styles, different tonal styles. They're all their own things.
Wow.
And they are so well done. When I watched the first season, I just started the second season, but when I watched the first season, all I wanted to do was sell an anthology of sci-fi. Like it is so freeing to watch. There's all different kinds of stories. There's all different kinds of characters. It's amazing. So that's my other plug is Love, Death, and Robots. Fantastic. Fucking fantastic.
I'm working on I'm finishing up the novel that I'm writing, and it's this sci-fi, and now I'm listening to you guys talk about hard and soft sci-fi. I would say mine's medium. But I think that's where the audience is going. I think the audience is evolving. They want more than just, why is that happening? Fucking magic. Okay. Yeah. They want to know that there's reasons for things for it happening. It has a little to do with physics,
Yeah.
So Case, you asked what my favorite kind of sci-fi is, and I like humor. So I'm a Douglas Adams person.
I was gonna say, Hitchhikers.
In both fantasy and sci-fi, and maybe everything, humor is really a top of the list kind of thing, and so that's another reason I think that this appealed to me, is because there is humor in it. So much hard sci-fi is so very, very serious. Oh, it's so serious all the time, and it's just really aggravating to me. An
Maybe
example of
that's why I love Andy Weir's stuff. I mean, it's definitely hard sci-fi, but he has a lot of humor in it.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I also think tonal shifts are important. You've got a lot of hard sci-fi where the tone is like it's always up here, right? Like it's all death or fear, or, really everything's at stake all the time. And I don't enjoy that.
Yeah, I've been reading a couple of sci-fi series from a veteran writer. I'm a veteran. If you're just tuning in and you don't know me, I mean, usually when I meet you, I tell you within 5 minutes. I'm a combat veteran, and I was reading these Iraq combat veterans who are writing sci-fi, and it's just like what you're saying, Lee. It's like it's just tuned up to 11 the whole time, and they never let the reader have a moment to just like decompress. That's what gallows humor is,
right?
Laugh a little bit.
Yeah. And I think that's really important. I mean, that's if we go back to Farscape, it's one of the really beautifully done things about Farscape. Is,
that little guy, I forget the little guy's name, the puppet, Baron of some whole galaxy. I'm gonna have to watch the whole series again. It was good.
Well, I think. Sorry.
Go ahead, Case.
Well, I was thinking that not only with sci-fi, I think a lot of new shows do that, where they don't let the viewer breathe at all. Yeah. They don't get to exhale at all. I mean, like I remember watching like the show. Did you guys ever watch Weeds?
Yeah.
It was always the exact same thing.
I had to turn it off. I enjoyed it at first.
Same.
And then after a few episodes, I was like, I can't.
Yeah. It was just like, I get torturing your protagonist, but it was the same kind of torture, and they kept making the same damn mistakes. And I hate shows that continue to do that because the character doesn't grow. When it comes to sci-fi, I can only think of some. I like Dick. I mean,
I'm sorry. Say that again.
I love Dick. And I don't know if you would, consider Philip K. Dick sci-fi, but
yeah, it's absolutely sci-fi. Yeah. He's like the father of cyberpunk.
Well, and I think I've read every book of his.
Grandfather, I guess.
And I mean, he's got great characters.
Well, I just read one of those books, the spray paint can that does everything. What was that called? That was Dick. I'll find out and let you know. Sorry.
Oh, that's the other thing I like. My other favorite thing is cyberpunk and steampunk. I love. Give me a robot arm, and I'm a happy girl. Yeah. Give me a dystopic, kind of overcrowded, neon future and a robot arm, and like that's my jam.
Yeah. All right, I'm jumping in here because we've about 10 minutes left, and so is this a high recommend? Are we reading book 2? What's the final thoughts? Let's wrap up a rendezvous with Rama.
Sean lobbied for book 2, but we had to tell him no. So that's gonna be we had to like keep him from buying that. And
I'll probably when we did Twilight, I got all the way into 4 movies and found out that Jacob fell in love with Bella's unborn baby, which is already you got a 106-year-old man fall in love with her 17-year-old. So, but I got lost in that universe. Would I recommend Rendezvous with Rama? The only way that I would recommend this book is if I was teaching a science fiction class over a semester, and we did that because it did win a lot of awards, and it was the solid base for a lot of other writers to come from, like a seed that grew. So maybe in that way. But would I recommend to a friend? Me and Bigfoot, we say no.
Wow.
It depends on the friend. There's just so many different kinds of sci-fi lovers out there. If I had a friend who I knew would be into this sort of style, sure. If I knew a friend with the same taste as me, No, probably not. Even though I enjoyed it way more than I thought, it's not a thing that I would return to or would have read on my own, you know.
And I'm glad that you said that, Lee, in case you kind of went on it too. And I know that we have to close up, but when we're doing this podcast, I definitely want to talk about the book, but I'd really love to talk about the writing styles. And if we had any of the writers like listening to our podcast, kind of talk about that, because this was another third person omniscient and it kind of bounced around everywhere. And like we said, didn't like really hit what's at stake as far didn't check my box, but for you guys. And like, just, we should talk about, the writing style a little bit more.
Yeah. And I think that, Sean, that plays to our conversation too, in the sense that we've had some really lively conversations about Jaws and Twilight and Hemingway. And I think this book, I mean, we looked at it kind of in a canon of looking at the canon of sci-fi, and it was interesting. But I wonder too that there was really nothing in here that sparked controversy within our group. I really don't know where I'm going with that, but I think that says something about this book. And
maybe it was a little too safe.
What's that?
Maybe it was a little too safe.
Yeah, maybe it was a little too safe.
And that might be what I don't like about it, honestly.
I think the sentences are lovely. I think they're fine sentences. I think the writing's tight.
Is that the compliment you want when someone reads your book? It's like, sentences were all right.
I mean, it is a compliment. I want.
Compliment.
Yes. I work very hard on my sentences.
If somebody says, I was reading your book and I didn't really like it, I'd be like, you read my book?
I know, right? I mean, I thought that I didn't think there was much to discuss about the writing, because either you accept the fact that this is a non-plot driven book, in which case the writing's great, or you find that a fatal flaw, in which case that's the thing that's problematic with the writing. But the sentences are good. The humor is good. It's well paced in terms of the humor. I don't mean the pacing of the book. The paragraphs are good. The descriptions are lovely, beautiful. I think the descriptions are really beautiful. We even have tension built. It just never goes anywhere.
Maybe.
And there's tension builds in moments of it, right? It just doesn't go anywhere. So either you accept.
If you're digging a bunch of old people sitting around a room.
Well, I mean, we've got the water that comes up.
When
we've got the machine that's approaching Jimmy as he's falling, and there's a bunch of times when I thought they were my heart raced for them. It just didn't go anywhere. Everything was just fine. So I think it's if you
don't even got a boo-boo.
Yeah, if you're okay with a book that doesn't have
boo-boos,
a standard plot or boo-boos, then yeah, the writing's great. If you're not okay with a book that doesn't have those things, then the writing's terrible. And ultimately, I think, again, that's a taste thing.
Yeah. That's a good quote for the whole podcast. Hey, if you like plots and boo-boos, not the book for you.
Not the book for you, yeah.
Did you guys pick the next one?
We did.
All right.
Our next book is a short one. It is it's called Remote Control. It came out in 2021. So it's a new book. And it's by Nnedi Okorafor. And if I've mispronounced her name, I apologize. I practiced, but I may have mispronounced it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm digging this. This is great.
Yeah. And it's hold on. I just lost my train of thought. It's a African futurism book. So if you've heard of Afrofuturism, this is African futurism because it is centered in, I want to say Nigeria. And I've started it. I'll just put it out there. I started it and it's beautiful.
So it's science fiction again?
I'm still at the beginning of it, and I can't quite tell if it's science fiction or fantasy. But from what I've read about it, I think it's science fiction. But of course, when we look at African futurism, we're really dealing with a different set of tropes and stuff. So it's gonna feel new, and I hope we like it. I think we're gonna like it.
Outstanding.
Very good. That is 1 hour in the books. Nice work. So you see what I did there? In the books. We have check in with us in 2 weeks. We're gonna read about the new book here for a couple weeks, and we'll check in halfway through and see what everybody thinks about that. Sort of a tease. And then the next one is it's always the first Tuesday, or at least we try, of each month. And then I want to give a shout out to, or a plug to, we have a podcast coming up, a live van sessions this Friday. We have a wonderful local band, and it's made of 3 different artists who are really well known here in Ogden. And then each of those artists will do a single set of a couple songs each after their little band plays. So that's live here at the Monarch Building in Ogden, but then also we'll put it live on our outlets here, the Banding Collective, YouTube, Facebook pages, things like that. So tune in if you will. Yeah.
And poet Sonny Wilkinson will be reading that night between bands.
Very good. Between the artists what's the name again?
Sonny Wilkinson.
Sonny. Oh, good. Sonny. I met Sonny. Okay,
yeah, great poet. She read with me in AWP when we for the Black Lawrence Press reading. So it should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, Sonny's great. So, all right. Final thoughts. Any last words? What do you want to plug? Anything?
No. So, hey, for our 2-week discussion, I'm bringing Al Artero on to taste some bourbon with me. I'm going to give him the name of the book, and he's going to come up with the bourbon, and we're going to He knows his shit about bourbon and whiskey, so it should be a little bit of fun time. Plus, he's a crazy combat vet too.
We need more crazy combat vets.
The world does. Wait, no, we're getting a lot more. No.
All right, thanks everyone for tuning in. This is Bourbon, Beer, and Books. I believe that's a wrap.
All right.
Cheers.